Psychedelics are substances like LSD, MDMA, psilocybin mushrooms, ayahuasca, and ibogaine. Psychedelic therapy occurs when a therapist administers a psychedelic substance to a patient in a controlled therapeutic setting. Psychedelic therapy used to be legal in the United States. Before it was made illegal, thousands of people were able to receive psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy for a variety of conditions. MAPS is asking for $50,000 to complete a Phase 2 study into MDMA-assisted psychotherapy as a treatment for PTSD. This study will play a vital role into one day making psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy legal again.
Prior to doing the psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, I had been in psychotherapy for on and off for probably 20 years. And I had been on antidepressants for 15 years. I was also on medicine to help with anxiety. And I'm not on any of those medications anymore.
I was a 0331 infantry machine gunner. I did 2 deployments to Iraq. My first one was Fallujah. The second one was to Ramadi, Iraq. That's where a lot of my, traumatic events happened. Before the therapy, having PTSD was just a nightmare. One of the biggest things with that is a sense of hopelessness.
When I had PTSD, I was very anxious. I had panic attacks. I was starting to get more and more isolated. Miraculously, I found the MAPS program, and that's the help that I really needed. That really worked.
We're trying to raise $50,000 to complete a fundamental study in our process of developing MDMA into a prescription medicine. We predict FDA approval for MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for PTSD by 2021.
After my first session, I noticed my hypervigilance started going down right away. My memory was getting better, my pain was subsiding.
I really did find, the healing that I needed for the combat experiences that I went through during my very first session. It just helped me to go so much deeper within my consciousness. I accepted that part of myself that I had cut off.
Since I have finished the MDMA-assisted therapy, the world feels like a friendlier place, like a more loving place.
The MDMA therapy really was just years packed into a moment.
Studies being conducted by MAPS have a waiting list of more than 1,000 people who need help right now and believe psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy could help improve their lives. This is only a small fraction of people worldwide who could benefit from these treatment options.
My friends are still suffering. I just want to see my brothers and sisters get the help that I got.
We just have to be able to offer this to more people.
We're trying to complete the funding of this $1.4 million study through crowdfunding to help all sorts of people have a role in participating in making MDMA into an FDA-approved prescription medicine.
The only way we can make psychedelic therapy legal is by completing more clinical trials. You can help legalize psychedelic therapy by donating to this campaign and sharing it with friends, family, and anyone you know who may be interested. We need your help to legalize psychedelic therapy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ingrid Pacey. I'm a psychiatrist, and I've devoted myself to understanding the healing potential of various states of consciousness. This video will demonstrate 4 basic principles that you can use to assist someone undergoing a difficult psychedelic experience. These principles are similar to those used by therapists in psychedelic psychotherapy research settings. In the upcoming scene, we will watch a young man who is having a difficult experience while under the influence of a psychedelic drug and demonstrate some general principles on when and how emotional support could best be given.
Whoa, look at Jason over there. He's looking a little out of sorts.
Do you have any idea what's up with him right now?
Well, Donald told me that they each took about 2 hits of acid a couple of hours ago, but Donald went for a walk with some friends, and Jason's just here by himself.
What Jason is experiencing is not just limited to what he is seeing and hearing. It is reaching the deepest levels of his mind. Things usually taken for granted, like time, self-identity, and any other aspect of reality, can be as unusual as what he is seeing and hearing. Even though most psychedelic difficulties are psychological, not physical, if someone has taken a psychedelic drug and is having a difficult experience, a helper should first assess, is the person concerned about his or her physical safety? If there is any doubt about physical safety, a helper should call 911. If not, try to find out some basic information. What drug does the person think he or she took? How much of the drug does the person recall taking? How long ago does the person recall taking the drug? Is the person on any other medications or drugs, including alcohol? For further background information about drugs and drug combinations, the website www.arrowwood.org has potentially useful information.
How are you feeling?
I sort of feel like I'm going insane right now, a little bit. I feel like I need to get out of here. I'm sorry, it's hard for me to talk right now.
It's fine. Do you feel physically okay?
Yeah, physically I feel fine. But like the rest of me feels like it's being sucked into some sort of vortex or something.
Are you tripping right now?
Yeah, I sure am. I'm tripping my face off.
Someone with the opportunity to help someone having a difficult psychedelic experience should keep a few basic principles in mind. If the person is not reporting physical danger, the first thing to do is to create a safe space. A safe space can be created anywhere, but it is best to find a place that is quiet, warm, and comfortable. A good phrase to remember is sitting, not guiding. Sit with the person, but do not lead the person away from his or her experience. Let your presence communicate safety and caring, and allow the content of the person's experience to guide any questions you ask or comments you make. If the person is in distress, you may be able to help him or her to explore whatever experiences or issues are being encountered. Staying calm will make it easier to create a trusting environment. This means that you can be helpful just by sitting with someone with a supportive and friendly presence.
What's happening when you close your eyes?
Oh, I'm seeing all these strange shapes and colors swirling into a vortex, but it's not so much like I'm seeing it. It's like I'm a part of it. I can't control it. I can't relax. I don't know how. I can't control it. I can't control it, and I'm getting sucked in.
Just go with it. We're in a safe place now.
Talk through, don't talk down. That is, help the person talk through what's happening, rather than trying to find some magic words to bring the person down from the experience. Many experts believe that it is best to give the person the space to work through his or her problems, rather than the common practice of trying to distract the person from them. Try to help the person connect with what he or she is feeling and facilitate them in their own journey by promoting trust and security.
Since you're going to be tripping for a few more hours, maybe you could take this opportunity to explore what's happening to you. don't fight your experience. Just trust that it's happening for an important reason.
Difficult is not necessarily bad. It is important to allow someone on psychedelics to explore all emotions, not just happy or fun ones. Experiences with longer-lasting negative consequences are more likely to occur when a person resists confronting his or her difficult emotions and tries to escape from them.
Wow. That was incredible. That was incredible. Painful, but with moments of peace and clarity. I definitely feel a lot less crazy when I'm not trying so hard to control everything.
In this video, we hope to have demonstrated some general principles about how to help a friend who is having a difficult psychedelic experience. The effects of psychedelics vary tremendously and are extremely difficult to categorize. Psychedelics can affect different people in different places and at different times with incredible variation. Yet the effects of psychedelics are not completely arbitrary either. The effects depend on the drug, the mindset of the person taking the drug, and the setting in which the drug is taken. Thanks for your attention. I hope this short video has raised issues that you can discuss further with your family and friends.
What is PTSD? Post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD is a chronic and devastating illness associated with high rates of disability and suicide. PTSD patients often avoid expressing their emotions, experience persistent fear, and hyperarousal. PTSD can be caused by war, sexual assault, childhood abuse, torture, violent crime, accidents, natural disasters, or other severely stressful events. These events are frequently re-experienced as dreams, flashbacks, memories, or negative reactions to situations that remind them of their trauma. Patterns of avoidance and withdrawal reinforce the painful memories instead of extinguishing them. PTSD involves changes in the brain. Studies show that PTSD patients have decreased activity in brain areas associated with memory and learning, and increased activity in areas associated with fear. War is a significant source of the PTSD epidemic in the U.S. and around the world. As increasing numbers of U.S. soldiers return home with PTSD, it is our national priority and ethical obligation to develop more effective treatments. Nearly 1 in 7 U.S. service members returning from Iraq and Afghanistan suffer from PTSD. A single diagnosis of PTSD can cost up to $1.5 million in taxpayer-funded benefits over a soldier's lifetime. In 2011, the U.S. Veterans Administration spent about $5.5 billion on PTSD disability payments to approximately 275,000 veterans. A cheaper and more effective solution is urgently needed for service members suffering from PTSD. PTSD sufferers are unable to escape from their traumatic pasts. MDMA-assisted psychotherapy can show them a way out. MDMA is a synthetic compound with the ability to decrease fear and defensiveness while increasing trust and empathy. MDMA decreases activity in the brain areas associated with fear. MDMA promotes the release of hormones associated with trust and bonding, helping people discuss their painful memories openly and honestly. MDMA-assisted psychotherapy is an innovative treatment that combines psychotherapy with the administration of MDMA. In a recent study, 83% of people who received MDMA-assisted psychotherapy no longer qualified for a PTSD diagnosis after treatment. On average, these subjects were still free of a PTSD diagnosis 3.8 years later. These extremely powerful results indicate a promising future for MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for PTSD. Further clinical trials of MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for PTSD are taking place around the world. And they can only be completed with your help. Learn more and find out how you can help make this promising therapy into a legal treatment for those who need it the most at mdmaptsd.org.
This is an interdisciplinary conference on psychedelics research. It's a subject, an academic topic that you can study from a great variety of academic angles. So you have psychologists, psychopharmacologists, historians, anthropologists, philosophers, psychiatrists, therapists, and they all study the psychedelic experience and the effects of psychedelics on the human.
LSD was really discovered in 1943, and by 1949 people were using it in research settings in the United States and elsewhere. And through the 50s and 60s there was an enormous amount of research with LSD and psilocybin, and it was one of the top areas of research for psychiatry. But the CIA was researching it for mind control, and it seeped out into the public settings, and then the Grateful Dead and Timothy Leary and the counterculture started using psychedelics.
We're teaching people how to use their head.
And then they started saying, we don't want to go to Vietnam and kill people for stupid reasons. And there was a lot of social turmoil, and then there was a massive backlash by President Nixon.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one in the United States, the problem of dangerous drugs.
And then there was decades of no psychedelic research, and then finally we were able to start it up again in the 90s, and now there's more psychedelic research going on than any time in the last 45 years. There's a renaissance in psychedelic research. Psychiatry is opening up to it. There's a lot of problems that the current medications don't treat. So what we have is a combination medication and psychotherapy package, and that has been shown to work better than medication alone or psychotherapy alone.
We've this year finally broken the taboo on doing a study with LSD, and we did a brain imaging study which has very much expanded our understanding of consciousness and how psychedelics turn off the function of the default mode network, i.e. ego dissolution, and the brain becomes much more single unit, which is communicating across, talking to different centers talking to each other in a way that doesn't happen in ordinary everyday consciousness. And that kind of underlines the feeling of unity expressed by the mystics. And now it's a well-known fact that the default mode network is hyperactive in quite a lot of conditions, illnesses, such as depression. So we thought, well, if that's turned down, let's use it to see if it can treat depression. It's incredibly valuable as an aid to healing process.
We have a trial that was recently completed in cancer patients who are anxious or depressed secondary to a life-threatening cancer diagnosis. And in that case, psilocybin showed very significant efficacy lasting out to 6 months. Most people have these deeply meaningful, potentially transformative experiences that look very much like naturally occurring mystical experiences of the type that are reported by religious figures across the ages.
One of the main reasons, I think, why they're so interested for scientists and also for therapists and psychiatrists is that they are able to produce an experience that can have enduring, lasting therapeutic effects. There's no single psychedelic medicine that has that potential or that effect right now. When you look at the available medicines right now, I'm studying the acute effects of LSD on the brain mechanisms involved in altering the emotional engagement with music. People tend to respond really emotionally to music in a psychedelic therapy context, and for that reason it can be an opportunity to deepen these emotions and come to a better understanding of what these emotions mean in a therapeutic context.
Can you explain us what ayahuasca is?
A long-lasting cooking of two different plants, both of them from the rainforest. It's capable of leading you to an altered state of consciousness. It apparently increases mystical experiences. It might be used as a therapeutic perspective to treat different conditions like addiction and depression.
We know that there are so many plants and herbs in the Amazonian rainforest, and the fact that people just discover this combination is just very hard to explain. Do you have any explanation for that?
My explanation actually comes from the explanation that the Indians give. They say usually is that the mushrooms told them what the formulation of ayahuasca was.
Our main area is MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for post-traumatic stress disorder. We also have MDMA for autistic adults with social anxiety, MDMA for people with life-threatening illnesses that are scared about dying. We're doing work with Ibogaine, outcome studies, observational studies of Ibogaine clinics to look at Ibogaine in the treatment of opiate addiction.
So how did you become interested in this field of psychedelic research?
So I'm a resident psychiatrist myself. As a doctor, I wanted to provide the best information. So that's why I get connected to here.
Did you learn anything exciting at this conference? Anything you would like to highlight?
Yeah, I've learned a lot of different things. I think there's really good imaging studies going on showing the changes that are taking place in the brain, both visually but also with music. So I think that's very nice. And also I think it's therapeutic role for addiction.
And the idea is that one can use psychedelics and other substances to induce altered states. And this should be a tool to investigate the basis of consciousness in general.
Part of my mission is to tell philosophers, look, there's this amazing pinnacle of consciousness one can acquire through psychedelics. And philosophy is a great tool, I think, to analyze it, but it just hasn't really been done much of late.
What do you think, what can psychedelic drugs give to people apart from therapeutic use?
I think it can really give a lot. You know, we talk a lot about mystical experience, about the consciousness expansion, about the feeling of connectedness and empathy towards other beings.
No, I don't think the clinical setting is the only setting in which people can experience psychedelics. I mean, if you look at indigenous cultures over the years, over the decades, over the millennia, there's always been traditional ceremonial use of psychedelics. For religious purposes, for divination, contacting forefathers.
What are the major barriers to psychedelic research?
The major barriers are regulatory. So in the United States, these are Schedule I compounds, meaning that they're available for research, but only very restricted conditions. And so the cost, if you will, of entering into research is very high for an investigator. we have generations of people who grew up believing that these drugs were associated with unusual toxicity. They made you crazy. They broke chromosomes. You know, people burn their eyes out looking at the sun, and there's some resistance to giving up some of those biases.
What would be the ideal regulation of these drugs? How would you control access to these drugs?
People who are adults should have legal access to psychedelics, but they should first try it in government licensed clinics just so they know what they're getting into, and that should be very low cost, paid for by taxes on drugs. And then if you have no big problems, then you get a license and you can buy it on your own and do it on your own.
We're talking about substances that have a potential to change the life of a lot of people, and even perhaps how our civilization works. But then again, we have to take care, because we're not talking about something that people would accept easily. People would see psychedelics as dangerous, and we have to take care in bringing these results and in making some sort of balance between politics and science.